It's easy to forget how different Old School RuneScape is today compared to when it was released in 2013. So much has been achieved in the last 10 years, but I was wondering who was actually the first person to complete some of these notable achievements, like who got the first Fire Cape, who got the first Abyssal Whip, who got the first Skill Cape. I didn't know until I researched this video, of course, but today we're gonna find out. So the day is February 22nd, 2013. You've just graduated high school, and the existential dread of your upcoming life is weighing on you like a ton of bricks. But today is a very special day because Old School RuneScape has just released. Players from all around the world rush into the servers to relive some of that nostalgia, and of course start racing to get experience and compete for high scores. So the first question I asked myself was, who was the first person to get any 99 in Old School, the first person to get a skill cape? Well, it turns out it was a player named A-Trait, and take a guess what skill it was for. Well, it was thieving. Not that surprising, thieving is a pretty popular and quick 99 to achieve, but you have to remember this is back in 2013, and not only are we missing notable training methods that just didn't exist back then, the economy was completely fresh, so it was kind of difficult to buy large quantity of training supplies, and just straight up players didn't really know the best training methods for the time. I'm pretty sure A-Trait got 99 via Pyramid Plunder, and I think half the people didn't even know what Pyramid Plunder was. To put in perspective, it took A-Trait 6 days to get the first 99. And if you think about that today, someone could get a 99 in 5 hours or something like that, but 2013 was a different era. Now when you think about it, back in 2013, probably the most prestigious PVM achievement was a Fire Cape. Today, Fire Capes are a dime a dozen, but back when Old School RuneScape released, not only was player skill just much lower overall, but weapons and armor were just straight up less powerful than they are today. So who was the first person in Old School to get a Fire Cape? Most likely, it was none other than Bonesaw. Now we have to take everything with a bit of a grain of salt when it's not in the high scores. We can't know for sure that someone didn't get one, but most likely it was Bonesaw. And just looking at his gear setup here, you can kind of put in perspective what people were working with back then. A magic shortbow, red D-hide, snakeskin boots, a rune med helm, a glory, and an Ava's. And this was done 1 week after the Old School server went live. Even by today's standards, getting a Fire Cape with just this gear and most likely not a very high range level is still a pretty impressive achievement. And of course, being the first player in Old School to get a Fire Cape is a historic moment. Now, one of the most iconic items in Old School RuneScape is an Abyssal Whip, and I was curious, who was the first person to get a whip in Old School? Now, most likely it was someone named 2192, although many people got 85 Slayer around the same time. But regardless, it only took 2 weeks for the first whip to come in Old School. So 85 Slayer or 80 Slayer potentially with Wild Pies in only 2 weeks. When you consider that the economy was completely fresh, Slayer training was way slower than it was today, plus you needed to get a high combat level to effectively train Slayer. That's actually really impressive. I mean, I'm sure the cannon was mainly responsible for getting this so quickly, but still an insane achievement. Remember, back in 2013, there was no Grand Exchange, and that's probably a good thing because if you look at my Grand Exchange history nowadays, it's a complete disaster. Oh wait, that's my actual bank account. Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. One of my biggest hobbies is personal finance, and I love all the tools that Rocket Money has to offer. For example, the other day I noticed I was paying for 2 random RuneScape memberships I haven't used in I think years. But thanks to Rocket Money, I was able to quickly cancel them, and now I'm down to a reasonable 5 memberships instead of 7.
Nice.
One of my favorite parts about Rocket Money is they have a really robust set of tools for analyzing your spending. I'm always shocked with how much money I spend every month, but it is far better to know than to just ignore it, although that's been working pretty well for me my whole life. Rocket Money allows you to analyze your spending habits, then you can create custom budgets that are personalized to you. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year when you take advantage of all their features, so I would highly recommend giving it a try. A great way to save money. Go to rocketmoney.com/flipping or you can click the link in my description to get started for free. And you can even unlock more features with Premium. That's rocketmoney.com/flipping to get started for free. Now here's the big one for early Old School RuneScape. Who was the first person to max a Old School RuneScape account? 99 in each skill, back in the first year where pretty much every single training method was worse and different than to what we have today. Now the first person to max in Old School was infamously JEBAM. JEBAM was able to reach max in just 8 months and became the first person to do so on October 27th of 2013 and managed to finish significantly before any other player. You can see the next highest rank is almost 50 million XP behind. So that brings the first year of Old School to a close, but there was an update in 2014 that would turn out to be incredibly influential for the future of the game, and that was Ironmen mode, which came out late 2014. Ironman is a much more challenging game mode, requiring you to obtain all resources yourself, and although this wouldn't be affected by the early days of the Old School economy, once again, many of the training methods we know and love today just didn't exist back in 2015. So that is what is really impressive about the first Iron Man to max, which was Leslie. They managed to do it in exactly 1 year, like to the dot, 365 days. So 12 months and they were able to max Herblore, Prayer, and some of the other really slow Ironman skills using Old School technology. Now there's no doubt the release of Zulrah that came out around that time definitely helped. I mean, they're still rank 11 for overall Zulrah KC for Ironman, but still an insane achievement. Now another thing that happened in 2015 was the release of FreetoPlay. FreetoPlay allowed you a limited RuneScape experience to introduce new players to the game and then eventually transfer over to membership. But what if somebody didn't do that and decided to max all in free-to-play? But someone by the name of Pause was the first player to do that, and it took them about a year and a half. August 23rd, 2016, Pause became the first free-to-play player ever to max. I don't think anyone really assumed anyone would even go for that. The fact that they got 99 rune crafting in free-to-play, just disgusting. Now 2017 was an interesting year. Not only did we get the first hardcore Ironman to max, which was Guile, it took him about 11 months, but we also got one of the most iconic Old School updates, the Inferno. The Inferno is, even today, one of the most difficult pieces of content, and on June 1st, the Inferno was added into Old School. And who was the first person to do it? Well, none other than Woox, who was able to complete it on June 3rd, so pretty impressive that he was able to do it, but also just goes to show the difficulty of the content. It took multiple days for the best player in this game to complete it, and it marks probably one of the most iconic moments in Old School RuneScape history. Now the rarest items in Old School usually aren't actually items, but little critters or pets. A player who is playing semi-regularly might get a couple of pets if they're lucky. But on February 25th of 2018, a player by the name of Homer was able to obtain every single pet that was available at the time. That's 40 pets, the last one being the Bloodhound pet. Now by 2018, many players have maxed, but there's still one final achievement nobody has ever completed, and that is 200 mil in every single skill. That's essentially maxing an account 15 times over. But finally, December 28th of 2018, a player did it, of course, by the name of Lynx Titan. The Lasagna Man himself became the first player to 200 mil all, and still remains at the very top of the high scores as of today, although that could change with the release of Sailing. And what's even more impressive about this, beyond the obvious, is he was able to do it with over 400 mil XP above the next ranked player. It was months before the next player hit 200 mil all, so it's just a legendary achievement. Now by the time 2020 rolled around, Ironman mode has been out for a long time, and each version of the game mode, whether it be Hardcore Ironman, Ultimate Ironman, Regular Ironman, there's been somebody who has maxed each and every one of those accounts. But there is one achievement left on the table, and that is maxing a free-to-play Ironman. That was finally achieved on August 11th of 2020 by someone named Coldfingers. And you might be wondering, why did it take nearly 6 years for someone to max a free-to-play Ironman runecraft? You have to mine all the pure essence yourself. It's just a painstaking process that was years in the making. 2021 saw one pretty notable achievement added to the game, that being combat achievements. a set of difficult tasks to prove your combat prowess was added in July 21st of 2021. Within 8 days, someone had completed it though, a player by the name of Jenny RS, who was the first person in old school history to get their Zuck helm. 2022, we have another absolutely insane achievement. So of course, Lynx Titan was the first player to 200 mil all, but Iron Higer became the first player to 200 mil all on an Ironmen account, which is so insane because Herblore, how do you get 200 mil Herblore experience banked in an Ironman? Now they achieved this December of 2022, and a year and a half later, there's only 3 people who have 200 mil in an Ironman, so they were well above the curve, so super impressive. Now Oldschool Runescape is notoriously a game that is not completable. Sure, you can max an account, you can get 200 mil in an account, but the game goes on, there's always more things to strive for. But on June 25th of 2023, the first player that I think can say they've completed Oldschool Runescape achieved the unthinkable. They were able to complete every single boss in Oldschool Runescape. From Vorkat to Zulrah to the Nightmare, from bosses that have been around since the beginning to modern day bosses, they completed every single drop. Since then, other players have done this, but Basiligus is the first, and they did it just last year, so an insane achievement that took the better part of 5 years of continual progress. So anyway guys, that is going to be it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.